The bass of the music inside the velvet room vibrated through the floorboards, traveling up my legs and settling in my chest. It felt like a warning, or maybe a countdown. I stood in front of the full-length mirror in the ladies' room, staring at a stranger. The girl in the reflection wore a simple white silk slip dress. It was modest compared to the sequined, skin-tight outfits of the other women here. But that was the point. In a room full of peacocks screaming for attention, you have to be the dove to get noticed by the wolf. White was a calculated choice, I whispered to myself, smoothing the fabric over my hips. I wasn't here to party. I wasn't here to drink. I was here to sell. My brother Leo had 3 weeks. The surgery cost a fortune, $1 million. A number so large it felt imaginary. But to me, it was the price of a life. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of expensive perfume and desperation that lingered in the air. "Showtime, Elena!" Door opens. The club music gets louder, clinking of glasses. I walked out. The VIP section was a shark tank disguised as a lounge. Men in Italian suits sat on velvet couches swirling amber liquid in crystal glasses, their eyes scanning the room like predators. But I wasn't looking for just any predator. I was looking for the king. And there he was, Mr. Damon Sterling. He sat alone in the darkest corner booth, separated from the chaos by a velvet rope and 2 massive bodyguards. He didn't look like he was having fun. He looked bored, lethal. He held a glass of whiskey, but he wasn't drinking it. He was just watching the ice melt his jaw tight, his dark eyes cold enough to freeze the room. He was the billionaire owner of half the city's skyline. Rumor had it he didn't have a heart, just a cold ledger where he balanced debts and grudges. Perfect. A man without a heart wouldn't ask for mine. He would just pay for the body. I walked past the bar, ignoring the catcalls from a group of drunk stockbrokers. My eyes were locked on the corner booth. One of Sterling's bodyguards stepped forward, his hand raising to block my path. "Private area, miss. Turn around." I didn't turn around. I didn't even blink. I looked past the guard's shoulder straight into Damon Sterling's eyes. For a second, the noise of the club seemed to fade. His gaze snapped to mine. It was heavy, physical, like a touch I could feel on my skin. He looked me up and down, analyzing me like a math problem he was too lazy to solve. Then he lifted 2 fingers. A lazy signal. "Let her through." The bodyguard stepped aside, confused. I walked into the lion's den. My legs were trembling. Real fear, not acting, but I forced my chin up. I stopped right in front of his table. "Mr. Sterling," I said. My voice was soft, breathless. I made sure of it. He leaned back, spreading his arms across the top of the leather sofa. The posture of a man who owned everything he saw. "You know my name," he said. His voice was deep, a low rumble that vibrated in my spine. It wasn't a question. "But I don't know yours. And usually women who approach me want something. A drink, a job, or a ride home. I want to make a deal," I said, clutching my small clutch bag tighter. A corner of his mouth quirked up. Not a smile. A smirk. "A deal." He laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Little mouse, do you know where you are? This isn't a boardroom. Go back to your friends before you get eaten." Little mouse. He thought I was prey. Good. "I'm not here for a drink, sir," I said, adding the honorific to stroke his ego. I took a step closer, entering his personal space. I smelled him then, sandalwood, expensive scotch, and danger. "I have a product, one night, exclusive rights." Damon's eyes narrowed. The boredom vanished, replaced by a sharp, icy curiosity. He sat up straighter, the air around him shifting from lazy to intense. "You're selling yourself," he stated, his voice flat. "You don't look like a whore." "I'm not," I replied instantly. I let my eyes widen slightly, feigning the fragility he expected. "That's why the price is high. It's my first time. And my last. Silence stretched between us. He studied my face, looking for the lie. He looked at my hands, my neck, the pulse fluttering frantically in my throat. "And why come to me?" he asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. "There are plenty of rich fools in this room who would pay for a pretty face in a white dress." "Because," I said, meeting his gaze with a courage I didn't feel, "they want a girlfriend, or a mistress, or a fantasy. You just want control, and you have the money." He stood up. My God, he was tall. He towered over me, blocking out the club lights. The shadow of him consumed me. He reached out. His hand, large and warm, brushed a stray lock of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered on my neck, right over my pulse. His skin was rough, calloused. The touch sent a jolt of electricity through me that made my knees weak. I gasped softly. He felt my reaction. He felt the shiver. $1 million, I whispered, naming my price before I lost my nerve. Damon froze. His thumb stroked my jawline, testing the softness of my skin. $1 million, he repeated, his voice mocking. For one night with a trembling virgin. Yes. No. My heart stopped. No, I choked out. No, he said again, leaning down until his lips were inches from my ear. I don't rent things, little mouse. I buy them. $1 million for 3 months. You live in my house. You warm my bed. You do exactly what I say. He pulled back to look at me, his dark eyes gleaming with a possessive fire. Take it or leave it. I looked at him. This wasn't the plan. 3 months with a man like him could destroy me. He would tear me apart. But then I thought of Leo. I thought of the hospital machines beeping. I looked into Damon Sterling's abyss-like eyes. I saw the challenge there. He expected me to run. I didn't run. Deal, I whispered. Damon smiled then. A true predatory smile. Good girl, he murmured. He grabbed my hand, his grip firm and claiming. Let's go home. Music fades out abruptly as he leads her away, the sound of a heavy car door slamming shut. His penthouse was like him, cold, expensive, empty. The rain lashed against the glass walls of the 50th floor, but the storm outside was nothing compared to the one inside my chest. I stood in the middle of his massive bedroom, still clutching my bag. I felt small. I felt dirty. And nothing had even happened yet. Damon didn't look at me. He walked to the minibar, poured a drink, and downed it in one swallow. The sound of the glass hitting the marble counter made me flinch. He turned. His eyes were darker now. Hungry. Take it off, he commanded. His voice wasn't loud, but it hit me like a whip. My fingers trembled as I reached for the zipper of my dress. This was the moment. The death of the girl who dreamed of roses and gentle kisses. The birth of the woman who sold herself. Forgive me, future husband. Whoever you are, forgive me. I let the white silk pool at my feet. The air conditioning bit into my skin, making my nipples harden, but I wasn't cold. I was burning with shame. Fabric rustling, slow, heavy footsteps approaching on a wooden floor. Damon walked toward me. He didn't touch me yet. He circled me like a wolf inspecting a trapped rabbit. You're shaking, he observed. He stopped behind me. I felt his hot breath on the sensitive skin of my neck. Are you scared of me, Elena? No, I lied. My voice broke. Liar. He grabbed my hair, not gently, and pulled my head back, forcing my neck to arch. A gasp escaped my throat. Good, he growled against my ear. Fear keeps you obedient. Then his hands were everywhere. Large, rough, possessive. He didn't undress. He was fully clothed in his suit, a king claiming his tribute. The contrast of his rough wool suit against my bare skin was abrasive, overstimulating. He lifted me onto the cold desk, papers and pens scattered onto the floor. Sound FX things falling on the floor, a sharp zipper sound. When he pushed into me, it wasn't romance. It was an invasion. I bit my lip to stop the cry of pain. I closed my eyes tightly, trying to pretend I was somewhere else. Trying to pretend this was love, not a transaction. But Damon wouldn't let me hide. "Open your eyes," he ordered, his voice strained, guttural. I kept them shut, a tear leaking out. His hand gripped my jaw, forcing me to look at him. His pupils were blown wide, black holes swallowing me whole. He looked obsessed. "Look at me," he snarled, thrusting harder. "I want you to see who owns you. I want you to remember my face, not some fantasy." My body betrayed me. Despite the shame, despite the pain, the sheer masculinity of him, the way he filled me, sparked a fire in my lower belly. I hated him for it. I hated myself more. "Damon," I whimpered. It was the first time I said his name without a title. The sound of his name on my lips seemed to break his last restraint. He groaned a low, animalistic sound and buried his face in my neck, biting down on the soft skin there, marking me, branding me. Ragged breathing skin, slapping against skin. The climax is intense and loud, then sudden silence. It was over. He pulled away, adjusting his suit as if he had just finished a business meeting. The mask of the broken king was back in place, cold, detached. But I saw his hand tremble slightly as he buttoned his cuff. Just for a second. I lay on the desk, curled in a ball, pulling the torn silk dress over my shivering body. I felt hollow. Damon walked to the nightstand, pulled out a checkbook, and scribbled something. He ripped the check out and placed it on the desk next to my head. 1 million, he said, his voice void of emotion. "The guest room is down the hall. Don't come into my room unless summoned." He turned to leave. I looked at the check. Then I looked at his back. "Is that all I am?" I whispered, my voice hoarse. "An expensive receipt." Damon stopped at the door. He didn't turn around. "You're mine, Elena. That's all you need to be." Door closes, morning birds chirping, a change in atmosphere. Scene shift. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen wearing one of his oversized shirts. The staff was already there. Damon was at the table, reading a tablet, drinking black coffee. He ignored me. But then his second-in-command, a young man named Marco, walked in. "Boss, the car is ready," Marco said. His eyes flickered to me just for a second. He looked at my bare legs. A coffee cup slamming down hard on the table. The noise made everyone jump. Damon stood up slowly. The temperature in the room dropped below 0. He walked over to Marco, getting right in his face. "Do you like what you see, Marco?" Damon asked, his voice deadly quiet. "No, boss. I didn't," Marco stammered, terrified. "She is not for looking." Damon hissed, his eyes flashing with a dark, ugly jealousy that shocked even him. "If you look at her legs again, I'll cut your eyes out." He turned to me, his gaze sweeping over my body, heavy and suffocating. "Go upstairs," he commanded me. "Put on pants. You don't show this skin to anyone but me." I turned and ran. My heart was pounding. He didn't care about me. I was just a possession. But as I ran up the stairs, I realized something terrifying. He was already addicted, and that was my only weapon. 3 weeks, 21 days, 504 hours. That was how long I had been a resident of the Sterling penthouse. Or rather, an exhibit. The place was magnificent, a fortress of glass and steel floating above the clouds of New York City. The floors were heated marble. The sheets were Egyptian cotton with a thread count higher than my college tuition, and the food was prepared by a Michelin star chef who never spoke. But a cage is still a cage, no matter how much gold you plate it with. I spent my days learning the rhythm of my captivity. Damon was a ghost during the day. He left before I woke up and returned long after I had pretended to go to sleep. But his presence was everywhere. It was in the way the staff lowered their voices when they passed his office. It was in the heavy, oppressive silence that filled the hallways. And it was on my skin. Every night he would come to my room. Sometimes he would take me with a hunger that bordered on violence, desperate to erase whatever demons he had battled that day. Other times he would just hold me, his arm heavy across my waist. his face buried in my hair, inhaling my scent like it was the only oxygen in the room. He never said, "I love you." He never even said, "I like you." He only said, "mine." And I played my part. Footsteps echoing in a large hallway, the sound of a vacuum cleaner stopping. I wasn't idle. While Damon thought I was just painting or reading in the library, I was working. My target wasn't Damon, not yet. It was his shadow, the staff, the people who saw everything but said nothing. I walked into the kitchen. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, was organizing the pantry. She was a stern woman in her 50s with hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She hated me. To her, I was just another gold digger spreading her legs for a billionaire. "Good morning, Mrs. Gable," I said softly, my voice sweet like honey. She didn't turn around. "Breakfast is not until 8, Miss Elena." "I know," I said, stepping closer. I noticed you were rubbing your shoulder yesterday. My grandmother taught me a blend of oils for arthritis. I made some for you." I placed a small glass bottle on the counter. It was nothing special, just lavender and peppermint oil I found in the bathroom, but the gesture was calculated. Mrs. Gable stopped. She turned slowly, eyeing the bottle, then me. "Why would you do that?" she asked suspiciously. "Because this house is big and cold," I whispered, looking down at my hands. "And you're the only mother figure here." The lie hung in the air, shimmering. I saw the crack in her armor. Her eyes softened. She picked up the bottle. "Thank you," she muttered, her voice less harsh. "Mr. Sterling, he likes his coffee black, but with a pinch of cinnamon. He never asks for it, but he drinks it all if you add it." Boom. First piece of intel acquired. I smiled a shy, grateful smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Gable." Then there was Marco, the young bodyguard, the one Damon had threatened. Since that day, Marco wouldn't look at me. He stood by the elevator like a statue. I walked past him holding a plate of untouched pastries. "Marco?" I said. He stiffened. "Miss, please, the boss." "The boss isn't here," I cut in gently. "And I heard you on the phone. Your mother's surgery is next week, isn't it?" Marco's eyes widened. "How did you—" Listen," I said. "Take these. It's Valrhona chocolate. Maybe she'd like them." I shoved the plate into his hands and walked away before he could refuse. I didn't look back, but I felt his gaze on me. It wasn't fear anymore. It was loyalty. One by one, I was turning his watchdogs into my pets. Dining room ambiance, cutlery clinking. Damon was home. He sat at the head of the long mahogany table surrounded by screens. A tablet propped up against the juice pitcher, a phone in his hand, a laptop open next to his plate. He looked exhausted. The lines around his mouth were deeper today. He didn't acknowledge me when I sat down. He just pointed a finger at the coffee pot. I poured him a cup, black. And I added a tiny pinch of cinnamon, just like Mrs. Gable said. He took a sip, eyes still glued to his email. Then he paused. He took another sip. He lowered the cup and looked at me for the first time. His dark eyes narrowed, analyzing me. "Who told you?" he asked quietly. "Told me what, sir?" I asked, blinking innocently. "The cinnamon." "I just guessed," I lied. "It smells like comfort." Something flickered in his eyes, a moment of vulnerability. Or was it suspicion? Comfort? He scoffed, but he drank the whole cup. "I don't pay you to guess. I pay you to exist." "Then I'm existing," I replied, taking a small bite of toast. "You're not eating enough," he criticized, frowning at my plate. "You've lost weight. I can feel your ribs when I touch you." "Maybe if I was allowed to leave this penthouse, I would have an appetite," I retorted softly. A small rebellion. Damon slammed his phone down. You leave when I say you leave. Outside is dangerous, Elena. My enemies would love to get their hands on you just to send me a message. Do you want that? I want a life, Damon, I said, meeting his gaze. I'm not a porcelain doll. No, he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous purr. You're much more fragile than porcelain, and much more expensive. Before I could argue, the sound of commotion came from the hallway, high heels clicking rapidly, voices raised. Ma'am, you can't go in there. Get out of my way! The double doors flew open, and in walked a storm in a red Valentino suit. Vanessa Vance. I recognized her from the magazines. She was the heiress to a shipping empire, Damon's business partner, and the woman everyone thought would be Mrs. Sterling. She was beautiful in a sharp, predatory way. Blonde hair sleeked back, lips painted blood-red eyes like ice picks. She stopped at the end of the table, ignoring me completely. Damon, she said, her voice dripping with entitlement. Your security is incompetent. They tried to stop me. They were following orders, Vanessa, Damon said, not rising from his chair. He looked bored. I'm having breakfast. Breakfast? She laughed, a harsh, metallic sound. She finally turned her eyes to me. Her gaze was physical. It scraped over my skin like sandpaper. She looked at my simple dress, my bare face, my messy hair. So, this is the rumor, she sneered. I thought the tabloids were exaggerating, but you really did move a whore into the penthouse. I froze. The word hung in the air, ugly and violent. Damon's hand clenched around his coffee cup. Watch your mouth, Vanessa. Why? She walked towards me, her heels clicking like gunshots. Is she sensitive? Does she not know what she is? You bought her Damon. Everyone knows. $1 million for a piece of trash from a nightclub. She stopped right next to my chair. She smelled of expensive perfume and gin. Look at her, Vanessa mocked, leaning down. She's shaking. What's the matter, honey? Cat got your tongue, or are you only good at opening your legs? I looked down at my lap, clenching my hands into fists under the table. I could fight her. I could throw my juice in her face. I could scream. But that's what a normal girl would do. A wolf plays the long game. I took a shaky breath. I forced tears into my eyes. I made my lip tremble. I looked up at her with wide, terrified eyes. I am sorry if I offended you, ma'am, I whispered, my voice breaking. I didn't ask to be here. I'm just doing what I'm told. Then I looked at Damon. I sent him a silent plea. Help me, please. Vanessa scoffed. Pathetic. Stand up. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. I said stand up. Let me see what makes you so special that Damon Sterling would skip board meetings to stay in bed with you. She yanked me up. I let out a cry of pain. Stop it, I sobbed, pulling my arm back. You're hurting me. That was the trigger. Chair scraping loudly against the floor. Heavy, fast footsteps. Damon moved so fast he was a blur. 1 second he was at the head of the table, the next he was between us. He grabbed Vanessa's wrist, the one holding me, and twisted it. Hard. Ah! Vanessa shrieked, dropping my arm. Damon, you're crazy! Damon didn't let go. He twisted harder, forcing Vanessa to her knees. His face was a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. The veins in his neck were popping. I warned you, he snarled, his voice a low, demonic growl. I told you never to come here uninvited, and I told you never to touch what is mine. She's just a girl, Vanessa cried, tears of pain streaming down her face. I'm your partner. I'm worth billions. She's worth nothing. She is worth, Damon hissed, leaning down into Vanessa's face. More than your entire miserable life. If you ever lay a finger on her again, I won't just break your hand. I will bankrupt your father, burn your company to the ground, and leave you with nothing but the clothes on your back. Do you understand? The room was deadly silent. Even the staff held their breath. Vanessa nodded frantically, terrified. Damon released her with a shove. She fell back onto the floor, clutching her wrist. Get out, he said calmly. Now! Vanessa scrambled up, shooting me a look of pure venom, and ran out of the room. Door slammed shut, silence returned, but the air was heavy, charged with adrenaline. Damon stood there, his chest heaving. He didn't turn around immediately. He was trying to control himself. I stood there, rubbing my arm where Vanessa had grabbed me. It was red. Damon, I whispered. He turned. The rage vanished from his eyes, replaced by a frantic concern I had never seen before. He rushed to me, grabbing my arm gently. He inspected the red marks left by Vanessa's nails. Did she break the skin? He demanded, his voice rough. No, I said softly. It just stings. He didn't let go of my arm. He lifted it to his lips and kissed the red marks. A gentle, reverent kiss. My heart skipped a beat. This wasn't lust. This wasn't possession. This was care. I should have killed her, he muttered against my skin. I reached out with my other hand and touched his face. His jaw was rough with stubble. You protected me, I said. Thank you. He looked at me then, really looked at me. You're mine, he said again, as if trying to convince himself. Nobody hurts what's mine. He pulled me into his chest, burying his face in my neck. He held me so tight it was hard to breathe, but I didn't pull away. I could feel his heart hammering against his ribs. It was beating just as fast as mine. Go upstairs, he murmured into my hair. Get ready. Ready for what? He pulled back, his eyes dark and intense. Tonight is the Obsidian Gala. The whole city will be there. Vanessa will be there. You want me to go? I asked, shocked. I don't want you to go, he corrected. I need you to go. I'm going to put you in the most expensive dress in the world, and I'm going to walk you right in front of Vanessa and every other vulture in this city. He gripped my chin, tilting my face up. I want them to see that the king has found his queen, and I dare anyone to touch you. I shivered. It was a declaration of war, and I was the flag he was going to wave. Yes, sir, I whispered. He smirked, that dangerous, sexy smirk that made my knees weak. Wear the red one, he commanded. And Elena, yes, don't wear any underwear. The dress was a weapon. It was silk, the color of spilled blood, clinging to every curve of my body like a second skin. It had a slit that went dangerously high up my thigh and a back that plunged down to my waist. And underneath, nothing. Absolutely nothing, just as he ordered. Every step I took felt illicit. The silk brushed against my bare skin, a constant teasing reminder of my vulnerability. I felt exposed, yet armored. Damon stood beside me in a black tuxedo that fit him perfectly. He looked like the devil attending a funeral. His hand rested on the small of my back, his thumb tracing slow, possessive circles on my bare skin. His touch was burning me. We stepped out of the limousine onto the red carpet. Intense camera flashes. Crowds shouting, "Mr. Sterling, over here! Who is she?" The world exploded in flashes of light. I instinctively flinched, shrinking into Damon's side. He didn't pull away. Instead, he pulled me closer, his arm turning into a steel band around my waist. He leaned down, his lips brushing my ear. Chin up, Elena, he whispered, his voice calm amidst the chaos. Let them look, let them envy. You're with me. I straightened my spine. I channeled the actress inside me. I wasn't Elena, the poor art student. I was Elena, the woman on the arm of the most powerful man in New York. We walked the gauntlet. I felt the eyes of every woman on me, judging, hating, calculating. And I felt the eyes of every man. They looked at me with hunger. Damon noticed. His grip on my waist tightened to the point of pain. A low growl vibrated in his chest. Keep your eyes on me, he commanded softly. Don't look at them. Inside the gala was a sea of diamonds and fake smiles. Damon led me through the crowd like a shark parting a school of fish. People stepped aside, whispering, "Sterling is here." "Who is that girl? Is that the one Vanessa was talking about?" Speaking of the devil, Vanessa was there holding a champagne flute surrounded by a group of older men. She looked pale. When she saw us, her glass shook. She saw Damon's hand on my skin. She saw the way he shielded me from the crowd. She didn't dare approach. The threat from this morning was still fresh. Damon led me to a high table near the balcony. He took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and handed it to me. "Drink," he said. "You're trembling." "I'm cold," I lied. I wasn't cold. I was hyper-aware of the breeze from the open balcony hitting my bare legs. "You're not cold," he murmured, his eyes dropping to the slit in my dress. "You're aroused." My face flushed hot. "Damon." "Shh." He stepped closer, blocking me from the view of the room. He was so close, his chest brushed against mine. "Tell me, little mouse, how does it feel? Walking around this room full of people knowing that I'm the only one who knows your secret." I swallowed hard. "It feels dangerous." "Good." His hand slid down my back, lower, resting dangerously close to the curve of my bottom. "Danger makes you feel alive." Suddenly a man approached us. He was older, with silver hair and a predatory smile. "Damon," the man boomed. "I haven't seen you since the merger." Damon stiffened. He removed his hand from my back, but didn't step away. "Senator Reeves." Damon nodded curtly. The senator turned his gaze to me. It was a slimy, undressing look. "And who is this lovely creature you've been hiding her?" "Elena," Damon said, his voice clipped. "This is Senator Reeves." "A pleasure," I said softly, not offering my hand. "The pleasure is mine," the senator said, reaching out to take my hand anyway. He brought it to his lips, his mustache brushing my knuckles. He held it a second too long. "You are exquisite, my dear. If you ever get tired of this boring man—" Glass shattering, Damon's champagne flute snapped in his hand. Shards of crystal fell to the floor. Champagne dripped from his fist, mixed with a drop of blood. The senator dropped my hand, startled. "Damon." "She doesn't get tired," Damon said, his voice terrifyingly calm. He didn't even look at his bleeding hand. He stared straight at the senator. "And she doesn't do old men. Walk away, Reeves, before I forget you're a senator." The senator turned pale and scurried away. I grabbed a napkin from the table. "Damon, your hand." I took his large hand in mine. There was a shard of glass embedded in his palm. Blood was welling up. He didn't seem to feel it. He was staring at the spot where the senator had touched me. "He touched you," Damon muttered, his eyes glazed over. "I should cut off his lips." "Damon, look at me," I whispered urgently. "We need to clean this." I pulled him toward the balcony, away from the prying eyes. It was dark out there, the city lights twinkling below. The noise of the party was muffled by the glass doors. I dabbed at his cut with the napkin. "Why did you do that? He was looking at you like you were food," Damon hissed. He used his uninjured hand to grab my waist and pull me violently against him. "You are my food, Elena. Only mine." He kissed me. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was a collision. His lips crashed onto mine, demanding punishing. He tasted of champagne and copper. I gasped, opening my mouth to him, and he took it as an invitation. His tongue swept into my mouth, claiming me. His injured hand gripped my hair, not caring about the blood. His other hand slid down my dress, finding the slit. He found bare skin. He groaned into my mouth. "Damon, not here." I panted, breaking the kiss. "People will see." "Let them see," he growled, biting my lower lip. His fingers danced dangerously close to my center. "Let them see who makes you scream." I was melting. My knees buckled. I clung to his tuxedo jacket to stay upright. The cool night air mixed with the heat of his body was intoxicating. "Please," I begged. I didn't know if I was begging him to stop or to continue. Suddenly, a loud noise from inside startled us. Microphone feedback squeal. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention?" Damon pulled back, breathing heavily. His eyes were wild. He looked at me, lips swollen, dress disheveled, pupils dilated. He wiped a smear of his blood from my cheek with his thumb. "We're leaving," he stated. "Now." "But the gala." "To hell with the gala," he rasped, grabbing my hand. "If I don't get you home in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to take you right here on this balcony." We rushed to the elevator. Damon was practically dragging me. We reached the underground parking lot. It was quiet. Too quiet. Our driver wasn't by the car. Damon stopped abruptly. His instincts kicked in. The lust in his eyes vanished, replaced by the cold calculation of a killer. "Elena," he whispered, "get behind me." "What?" "Do it." I stepped behind him just as a shadow moved from behind a pillar. 3 men, ski masks, guns. My heart stopped. "Mr. Sterling," one of them said. "We have a message from the Ivanov family." Damon didn't panic. He stood like a statue, shielding me with his body. "Tell Ivanov I don't take messages from dead men," Damon said. Gunshot. Glass breaking. Chaos erupted. Damon moved. He pushed me down behind a concrete pillar. "Stay down," he roared. He pulled a gun from where I didn't know he was armed. 2 shots rang out. 2 men fell. The third man lunged at Damon. They grappled. The gun skittered across the floor. It slid toward me. I stared at the gun. Black, cold. Damon was fighting the man, but the attacker had a knife. He slashed at Damon's arm. Damon grunted. The man raised the knife for a killing blow. Time slowed down. I could scream. I could cry. Or I could be the wolf. I scrambled forward. My red dress tore. I didn't care. I grabbed the gun. It was heavier than I thought. My hands were shaking, but my aim was true. I remembered what my father taught me before he died. 2 hands. Breathe. Squeeze. "Hey!" I screamed. The attacker turned his head. I pulled the trigger. Bang! Echoes in the parking lot. Silence. The man crumpled off Damon. Damon pushed the body away and scrambled to his feet. He looked at the dead man. Then he looked at me. I was sitting on the concrete floor, the gun still in my hand, smoke curling from the barrel. My face was pale, but my eyes were dry. Damon walked toward me slowly, as if approaching a wild animal. He gently took the gun from my hands. He pulled me up. He checked me for injuries. "Elena," he breathed, his voice filled with shock and awe. "You." "He was going to hurt you," I whispered, the adrenaline finally crashing. My knees gave way. Damon caught me. He lifted me into his arms, bridal style. He looked down at me, and for the first time, I saw something other than obsession in his eyes. I saw respect. I saw fear. And I saw love. "You saved me," he said, pressing his forehead to mine. My little mouse just turned into a lioness. "I told you," I murmured, burying my face in his chest as the sirens wailed in the distance. "I'm not a porcelain doll." "No," Damon swore, kissing the top of my head fiercely. "You're a queen, and tonight you earned your crown." The smell of gunpowder wouldn't leave my nose. It was stuck there, mixed with the metallic scent of blood and the lingering expensive perfume of the gala. We were back at the penthouse. The ride home had been silent. Damon drove like a madman, one hand on the wheel, the other gripping my thigh so hard I knew there would be bruises tomorrow. Not out of anger, but out of a desperate need to make sure I was still there. Still real. He led me straight to the bathroom. He didn't call the maids. He didn't call the doctor. He locked the door. The bathroom was a sanctuary of white marble. It felt too clean for 2 people covered in blood. "Sit," he ordered gently, pointing to the edge of the massive tub. I sat. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling uncontrollably. There was dried blood on my fingers, not mine, his, and his, the man I killed. I killed him, I whispered. It was the first thing I had said in an hour. Damon knelt in front of me. He took a warm washcloth and began to wipe my hands. His movements were incredibly tender, a stark contrast to the violence he had just displayed. He was a threat, Damon said firmly, scrubbing at a stubborn spot of red on my knuckle. You neutralized the threat. You survived. That is all that matters. I'm a murderer. I choked out a tear, finally escaping. Damon stopped. He dropped the cloth and cupped my face with his clean hands. He forced me to look at him. His eyes were fierce, burning with conviction. No, he growled. You are a survivor. In my world, Elena, there are only two kinds of people, the butchers and the cattle. Tonight you proved you are not cattle. He stood up and pulled me to my feet. Take off the dress, he murmured. It's ruined. I let the torn red silk fall to the floor. It lay there like a pool of blood. Damon lifted me into the warm water. He bathed me. He washed my hair, massaging my scalp. He washed my back. He didn't touch me sexually. This was intimacy of a different kind. It was worship. It was gratitude. Splash of water. Silence. Later, wrapped in a fluffy robe, I sat on the bed. Damon handed me a glass of whiskey. Drink, Vin, he said. It helps with the shock. I took a sip. It burned, but it grounded me. Damon sat in the armchair opposite me, watching me. He held a file folder in his hand. He looked conflicted. Elena, he started, his voice serious. I need to ask you something. Yes. Where did you learn to shoot? My heart skipped a beat. I told you. My father taught me, I stammered. Before he died, we used to go to ranges. Damon threw the folder onto the bed between us. It slid open. Photos spilled out. Photos of me. Not as an art student, but younger, at a shooting range, in a dojo. I had my team run a deeper background check while we were in the car. Damon said, his eyes narrowing. Your father wasn't just a mechanic, Elena. He was ex-Special Forces, dishonorably discharged. I froze. My cover was cracking. He was a good man, I defended weakly. He was a mercenary, Damon corrected. And he trained you. That stance, the way you held the gun, that wasn't recreational. That was military grade. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Who are you really, Elena? Did someone send you to kill me? Was this whole innocent virgin act a setup? I felt the air leave the room. He suspected me, after I just saved his life. Anger flared up in my chest, hotter than the fear. I saved your life, I shouted, standing up. If I wanted to kill you, I would have let that man stab you. I would have shot you in the back. Damon stood up too, towering over me. Then why hide it? Why pretend to be a helpless little mouse? Because, I screamed, tears streaming down my face. Because men like you don't want a warrior. You want a doll. You want something to play with, to break. If I showed you I could fight back, would you have paid for my brother's surgery? Would you have brought me here? Silence. Damon stared at me, stunned by my outburst. Stunned by the truth. I did what I had to do to survive, I hissed, poking him in the chest. Just like you. Damon looked at my finger on his chest. Then he looked at my face. The anger in his eyes melted away, replaced by something darker, heavier. He grabbed my hand and pulled me into him. You're right, he admitted gruffly. I wanted a doll. He ran his hand down my spine, sending shivers through me. But I think I prefer the warrior. Thunderclap outside. Rain intensifies. The next morning, the dynamic had shifted. I wasn't just a guest anymore. I was a partner. Damon took me to his study, the one room I was forbidden to enter. If you are going to stay, he said, unlocking a safe behind a painting, you need to know what you are up against. You need to know why they attacked us. He pulled out a stack of documents in a small velvet box. The Ivanovs didn't attack me for money, Damon explained. They attacked me for this. He opened the box. Inside was a microchip. What is it? I asked. Leverage, he said. Evidence that could bring down half the Senate, including Senator Reeves. He looked at me. My father died protecting this. I've spent 10 years decoding it. Then he looked at the documents. And there's one more thing. He hesitated. This was rare for him. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a birth certificate. Name Elena Sterling. Date of birth 21 years ago. I stared at it. My brain couldn't process the words. What is this? I whispered. Sterling. That's your name. Not mine, Damon said softly. My uncle's. My father's brother. My knees gave out. I grabbed the edge of the desk. You're saying... We are not related by blood, Damon said quickly, seeing the panic in my eyes. My father adopted me, but my uncle, he had a secret daughter with a housekeeper. A daughter who disappeared. He walked around the desk and stood in front of me. When I saw you in the club, I didn't just see a pretty face. I saw him. You have his eyes. So, I felt sick. You bought me. Because you knew. I suspected. He corrected. I brought you here to keep you safe. To verify it. If the Ivanovs knew who you really were, they wouldn't just kill you. They would use you to claim the Sterling legacy. I backed away from him. You lied to me, I whispered. This whole time. The contract. The sex. It was all a lie. You were just managing an asset. No, Damon shouted, grabbing my shoulders. The sex. The feelings. That was real. That was the only thing I didn't plan. I tried to stay away, Elena. Why do you think I was so cold? Why do you think I called you a mouse? I was trying to remind myself that you were a job, but I failed. He looked desperate. The king was on his knees metaphorically. I fell for you, he confessed, his voice breaking. I fell for the woman who put cinnamon in my coffee. I fell for the woman who saved my life. I looked at him. My whole world was spinning. I wasn't just a poor girl. I was an heiress. I was a target, and the man I was starting to love was the man who had manipulated me from the start. Or had he? I pulled away from his grip. I need time, I said coldly. The wolf was back. I need to think. Elena? Don't, I warned, raising a hand. You said you prefer the warrior. Well, the warrior is pissed off. Stay away from me, Damon. I walked out of the study. I didn't slam the door. I closed it quietly. The click of the latch sounded like a gunshot. Thunderstorm is raging, wind howling, the sound of packing a suitcase, zipper closing. The penthouse felt like a graveyard of memories. Every corner held a ghost of a touch, a whisper, a lie. I packed my bag, not the expensive clothes he bought me, just my jeans, my sketchbook, and the old sweater I came here with. I was leaving, not because I didn't love him. God help me, I did. But because I couldn't trust him. Was I his lover, or just a piece of the Sterling legacy he needed to secure? I walked to the elevator. Marco was there. He looked torn. Miss Elena, he pleaded. Please. The boss. He hasn't eaten. He hasn't slept. He's just sitting in the study staring at the security feeds. Move, Marco, I said softly. I can't let you leave. It's not safe. Marco. I looked him in the eye. Remember the chocolate, remember your mother. Marco flinched. He looked down. He stepped aside. Be careful, miss. I stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, shutting out the golden cage. I walked out of the lobby into the pouring rain. I needed air. I needed to breathe without the scent of sandalwood and danger clogging my lungs. Tires screeching, van doors sliding open. "Grab her!" happened in seconds. A black van screeched to a halt. Men in masks jumped out. I didn't scream. I fought. I kicked. I scratched. I bit. "Get off me!" But there were too many of them. A cloth smelling of chemicals was pressed over my mouth. Darkness. Drip, drip, drip. Distant sirens. I woke up tied to a chair. A warehouse, abandoned, smelled like rust and old fish. In front of me stood a man, short balding with a scar running down his face. Ivanov, the head of the rival mafia family. And beside him, Vanessa. Of course, the scorned woman. "Wakey, wakey, princess," Vanessa sneered. She looked deranged. Her hair was messy, her eyes wild. "I told you, didn't I? You're nothing." "You're pathetic, Vanessa," I spat out. "Teaming up with the enemy? He promised me Damon's empire," she laughed. "Once you're dead and Damon is broken, I'll pick up the pieces." Ivanov stepped forward. He held a knife. "Enough chatter," he grunted. "Call him." They dialed Damon's number on speaker. "Damon," Ivanov said. "If you touch her." Damon's voice came through calm, cold, and terrifying. "I will peel your skin off while you're still breathing." "She's here," Ivanov taunted. "Come alone. Pier 4. You have 20 minutes, or I send her head in a box." Phone hangs up. "He's coming," Vanessa grinned. "And then I'll watch you both die." Time dragged. Then the lights went out. Power down sound. Darkness. Confusion. What happened? Check the fuse. Crack. The sound of a bone breaking in the dark. Thud. A body hitting the floor. "He's here!" Ivanov screamed. "Shoot him!" Gunfire erupted blindly into the shadows. But Damon wasn't just a businessman. He was a predator. I saw movement, a shadow darker than the rest. Damon moved like smoke. He took down 2 guards silently. Then the emergency lights flickered on. He stood in the center of the room. He was drenched in rain. He held a gun in each hand. His face was a mask of pure, unadulterated violence. "Drop the knife, Ivanov," Damon said. Ivanov grabbed me, pressing the knife to my throat. "Back off," Ivanov yelled. "Or the bitch dies." Damon froze. He looked at me. His eyes were full of apology, full of love. "Let her go," Damon said, lowering his guns. "Take me instead." "No," I screamed. "So romantic," Vanessa mocked from the corner. "Kill them both." But Vanessa forgot one thing. She was standing too close to me. While Ivanov was focused on Damon, I slammed my head back, smashing into Ivanov's nose. Crunch! He howled in pain, the knife slipping. I stomped on his foot with my heel and threw myself sideways, tackling Vanessa. "Now!" I screamed. 2 gunshots. Bang, bang! Ivanov dropped dead. Vanessa screamed, trying to scramble away, but I pinned her down. I looked up. Damon was there. He kicked the gun away from Ivanov's hand. He looked at me, sitting on top of Vanessa's hair, wild dress, torn fierce as hell. He smiled. A genuine, proud smile. "That's my girl," he breathed. Peaceful piano music. Birds chirping. Sunlight. 1 week later. We were back at the penthouse. But it felt different. Warmer. Vanessa was in jail. Ivanov's empire was crumbled. I stood on the balcony looking at the city. I wasn't running anymore. Damon walked up behind me. He wrapped his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. "Thinking about escaping again?" he asked softly. "No." I leaned back into him. I'm thinking about redecorating. This place needs more color. Do whatever you want, he said. Burn it down. Rebuild it. It's yours. He turned me around. He reached into his pocket. Not a checkbook this time. A ring. A black diamond surrounded by rubies. Dark, dangerous, and beautiful. Just like him. I don't have a contract for you this time, Elena, he said, looking vulnerable. No terms. No expiration date. Just a question. He got down on one knee. I spent my whole life building walls to keep people out. You didn't just climb them, you blew them up. He took my hand. I don't want a mouse. I don't want a doll. I want my equal. I want the woman who saved my life. I want the wolf. Elena Sterling, will you marry me for real this time? Tears welled in my eyes. Happy tears. You're arrogant, possessive, and dangerous, I whispered. I know, he smirked. And I love you, I smiled. Yes, I'll marry you. He stood up and kissed me. It was a kiss of promise, deep, slow, and full of passion. He lifted me up, carrying me inside. Where are we going? I laughed. To the bedroom, he growled playfully. We have a lot of lost time to make up for. And this time, he paused, looking at me with wicked intent. This time you can be on top. Laughter fading into romantic music. The sound of the balcony door closing.